even know what day this is. It is Thursday, I think, April the 23rd or 24th. I'm not even sure. I'm enjoying a coffee and thought I would do a quick little update video, let you know what I've been up to for the last month. Lots of projects done, lots of stitching, lots of knitting, a little bit of English paper piecing. So I thought I would set up. I'm actually downstairs, so the lighting down here is not all that great, but we're gonna make do. I've got, as I'm sure everybody else has as well, a house full of people. We are staying safe at home, except for when I have to work because I can't always stay home. But I do 4 shifts on and 4 shifts off. So when I am on my 4 shifts off, I am home as much as possible. And hubby and the kids are here. Hubby's business is closed, but closed to the public, but he's still going into the workshop each day to get work done and things ready. He is offering curbside pickup to those customers that want to avail of that. But other than that, he's been home too. So I currently have 2 kids upstairs, 2 adult children almost. Well, Marshall's 18. He's all finished university. He finished all of his courses online, so he's done for this semester. He does not have to go back now until September. Yay! Emma's schooling is up in air. She is studying to be a hairstylist. So she was supposed to actually finish her program diploma in hand by, I think, like the 3rd week of May. So they were finishing up school, like class time and salon time at the school, and preparing to do like a 4-week work term. And then they were supposed to have a break and just go back and get their diploma when all of this kind of blew up and the school closed. So they've basically been told to do what you can at home, keep practicing. So even though I've been stuck in the house, I still managed to get a haircut, and I've had my roots touched up, although they're soon going to need to be done again. But yeah, so I've had my hair cut and styled, and my husband's had his hair cut. He's had his beard done. So it's been great having her living in the house because, yeah, I got a little hairstylist at home, so I don't have to have like horrible roots and and hair that grows really long. Not that that's a bad thing, you know. Anyway, that's the least of our worries right now, right? So let's get to the things that I've worked on. I've thrown all of this stuff here together. I have a sofa full of items in front of me. I'm going to record this Flosstube update, and then after I have the update done, I am actually going to record another video that is going to be basically a whip parade. I have about, I don't know, maybe 30? No, can't be that many. I'll have to add them up. I have a lot of whips, but I was just going to do a run through them because a lot of them you haven't seen in a really long time because I've been concentrating on folk witch this year, trying to get that piece. I want to get that piece finished this year. And in order to do that, I have to focus as much as possible on that piece. So a lot of my other whips have been languishing, and what I've done is just pulled 1 or 2 at a time. And on the days that I'm working, I've been taking those to work. And the days that I'm not working, I've been concentrating on folk witch here at home. So let's basically just go through what I worked on this month. Let's start with this piece. This is the piece I'm doing for my daughter's graduation when she finishes hairstyling. It's called Let's Get Styled by Ursula Michael. And that's just a black and white. I print everything in black and white. I have a PDF version of this chart that I purchased. And here is, oh, needle's in the way. Let me just move my needle minder down. Here we go. So this is where we are at on this piece. I've gotten quite a bit done. And I will probably take this back to work sometime this month and get that finished up for her. So yeah, that's working quite well. I'm just stitching this on 18 count Aida. Actually, I don't even know if it's 18. I think it might be 14. This is 14. Definitely 14. 14 count Aida. So I really, really like the colors in this piece. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see them again with the lighting down here, but it is what it is. So there we go. That's that piece. I'm actually going to take that needle minder with the needle off of there. Whoops. Didn't mean to stick that to that. I'll put it over there. The next one I may or may not have worked on during this past month. I think I did though. I think I worked on it the last, I think I worked on it the 13th of, I don't know if I did work on it. I worked on it the 13th of March, but I don't think I worked on it the 13th of April. It's the Dark 13 stitching piece. I'm actually doing, again, PDF chart. This is Arsenic and Old Lace by the Little Stitcher on Etsy, I believe. I purchased this a couple of years ago. And I'm stitching this on a 28 count, it's called Irish Linen that I purchased. And I have the two ants just about completed. She's missing the top of her head. And I just started her shoes. But that's where I am on this piece. I'm really liking this. It's very easy to stitch. And it's large blocks of color, so it's a bit of mindless stitching. And I'm just stitching that in the DMC called for colors. And again, I only pull that out on the 13th of the month and work on it for Dark 13 stitching. So that's that piece. The next cross stitch that I worked on would be Death by Cross Stitch. And this one, we all know what that looks like. There it is here. That's Death by Cross Stitch. I have all of, from here up is done. I think that's all done. Yeah, that's all done. So what I'm working on now is I had worked across this way. So now I've dropped down and I've started this section of this bottom page, this bottom section. And this is where it is at the moment. So you can't see it all because I have it still on my Q-snap. I just leave it on there and just loosen the tension when I'm not stitching on it. I typically have tried to stitch on this for Friday off the grid every week. I'm stitching it on a 25 count antique white Lugana, and I'm stitching 1/1 using DMC 939. And I don't know how well that's going to focus or show up, but that's where it is. So I really like this border that I stitched in here. And I will probably have to do a little bit of back stitching in this section. There is some back stitching in that section. I'm not sure if I'm going to do any of it yet. I did do the back stitching for this little guy here in the top of his head and his little feet. But we'll have to see about the rest of it. So that's Death by Cross Stitch. I actually managed to get that loaded into Pattern Keeper. It doesn't show the back stitching in Pattern Keeper, but that's fine for me because I'm not doing the majority of the back stitching anyway. So I don't miss that it's not there. And I had to input what color I was using, and all the symbols show up, so it's easy. I can make the chart, like I can zoom in to make it larger or smaller and see exactly where I'm stitching. Now, next piece I worked on, and I worked on this up until towards the end of March. This is a Mystic Stitch piece. I don't know what that sticky's doing on there, but anyway. This is a Mystic Stitch piece that was given to me by Allie from Allie's Stitching Studio. She had purchased this kit a few years ago and had only just started like the top corner here. So again, it's a kit. It's all monochromatic colors. And I'm stitching it. She gave it to me because, you know, just because. My mom really, really loves Elvis Presley. Now, unfortunately, this is not a PDF. It is a hard copy chart. So I can't load it into Pattern Keeper, but I did manage to get almost a page finish before I put it away this time. Another page finish on it. What I did was I wanted to finish all of the black on the top of his hair. It was like a big section of black that I wanted to get done, and I did get most of it done. Here, let me move the needle minder over. There we go. So this is where it is at the moment. This is on 18 count Aida, and I'm stitching it 2 over 1 on 18 count. And so as you can see, it's very monochromatic. So all of this is all filled in. That's completely done. Most of this is done. I think that is all done actually. Yeah, it is. So all of this is done. The shine on his hair. Elvis's big fat head, because it is. It's like bigger than my head. And the only thing I needed to do to finish off this page is just finish off some of these stitches in here. And that's a page break there. So I've finished that page and I'm working into the next page. So that's as wide, I think, as his head is. I don't think it gets any wider than that. And that's the big head on the chart here. So this is the section I've gotten done right across to here. So I'm really pleased with the progress on that. That's kept me occupied at work a couple of nights when it wasn't as crazy as it has been as of late. It's been very crazy at work. And on my days off, I am enjoying my stitching and my comfy clothes. I'm in a big old big old sweatshirt hoodie that I haven't even bothered to change out of. I've had this hoodie on for a couple days now, just over my t-shirt or what have you. It's comfy, it's cozy, and I don't care. The last piece that I have been working on, that I have been very diligently working on, is Folk Witch by Gecko Rouge. And I finished a page finish right at the end of my last video, I believe. And I got another page finish done last night. Yay! So, Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts suggested that Folk Witch needs a head. So I've been convinced. I've decided to move up the chart instead of continue with the bottom portion of the chart. And I stitched the next page. And yes, I too think that Folk Witch needs a head. So I'm going to continue across on the top of the chart. So this is where she is. Da, da, da. So that bottom bit of stitching is that is the bottom of the chart. That's as far as it goes. And there is another page above her head here, which is just background. So this is the page that I finished. As you can see, her lovely hair is coming in there. Now let me fold this so I can show it a little bit better. There's her lovely hair. She has a braid here that's coming out nicely. So I have started all that. Now her hair gets progressively more red the further across her hair goes. So yeah, that is her head. This is a bit of background here and the steam coming up from her cup. It's a lot of lovely detail in this piece. So the bottom, as you can imagine, there's some confetti heavy sections like where the stack of books is, but the rest of it is her dress and this green background, which is very like lots of blocks of color. This row of stitching with her face and her hair is going to be quite confetti heavy, I think, going across here. I anticipate that to be the case. So that's why it's taken me a little bit longer to get this page finished. Like it took me just about a month to get that page finished on. 3 weeks, I guess, 4 weeks. Whereas I've been doing the page finishes on the lower portion of the chart a little bit faster. So, and these upper sections, there are leaves and things, but there's going to be a lot of like big blocks of color up here of background. So I anticipate that that's going to be faster stitching and the bottom is going to be faster stitching. So I'm hoping that the time I'm taking now to get her face and her hair and the other part of this tree that goes up by the side of her chair there, I'm hoping the time it takes me to get that done, I'll then see some big progress when I shift up and do the, and I'm hoping it won't take me a horrendous amount of time to finish this. My goal is to have this finished by the end of the year so I can give it a nice little wash, hopefully, just to freshen it up and iron. And then I'm going to roll it up into a shipping tube and I'm going to send it back to Jay in England. And I hope she's going to be pleased with it. I expect she will be. Yeah, so that's the plan, is to kind of get her finished, clean her up, and ship her back across the pond, so to speak. That is it for the stitching that I have worked on for the last month. The piece that I decided to pick up today after I finished that page on Folk Witch last night, I still am off today and I don't go back to work till tomorrow night. I wanted something a little more brightly colored and cheerful to stitch on for a couple of days. So I pulled out, this is an old one I've had. I started this last April when I was in Australia visiting Allie. and she also has the same chart. I have a digital copy or a digital subscription from the Gift of Stitching magazine, and that's no longer in print, and I don't even know if you can get a digital copy anymore, but when you purchased it you got like all the back copies. This was a mystery sampler that was in that magazine from Long Dog Samplers, and it's called the 18th Century Band Sampler by Long Dog Samplers. So I had the magazine, so I had all the parts, I printed them all off, and I started it with Allie when I was over there. And I just love the colors in this. It's so bright and cheerful. It's so nice for this time of year with it being spring, and for a little pick-me-up after, you know, everything that's been going on with the pandemic and staying at home. I'm not on social media as much as I have been, just because it's, you know, doom and gloom and too much negativity. I have been on Instagram, but Facebook and that sort of thing I've really just not dropped off the world, but I've limited my amount of time on it. So I pulled this back out, and what I had done when I started this was I did so much from each band just to see what they would look like as I went down. So when I picked it up this morning to put it on my hoop, I'm going to start working on this band now and bring it over another motif or two, and then I might do the same thing with this one, move it over and do another set of these flowers over here. And I'll work on this for a week or so in between working on Folk Witch, just for something a little more cheerful. I love the colors in this. So unexpected too, right? Like oftentimes I look at the Long Dog sampler charts, and I don't know if it's because a lot of her charts are computer rendered, like it's not a photo of the actual stitched piece. I find that the pictures can be very deceiving, and so once you actually start to stitch it and you're pulling these colors out, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a bright, it's very different than the colors I typically stitch with, but I am very much enjoying it. So that's what I'm working on today. So that's it for my cross stitch news. Put this away. The only other thing I've been working on, I have 2 other projects. If you don't want to hear about those, I guess I will say goodbye to you now. But if you do, I'm going to talk about my sweater that I am knitting, which is my Jessica Fletcher Murder, She Wrote sweater, and my English paper piecing. So let's start with the sweater. On the 23rd, I think it was, of March. Let me see. I know I have it written down here somewhere. Yeah. So the 23rd of March, I finished the second panel for my sweater. Here we go. The fish sweater with pockets. So this is one side, which will go over my shoulder, of course. This is the armhole. And I now have the dun, 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 second side complete as well. So here we go. This is the band down the front. They will go together with a zipper sewn in when I eventually get around to that. So there you go. That's the fish sweater. What's done of it at this point. And I'm having too much fun knitting this. I'm really enjoying it. So I finished those panels. I have the 2 front panels all done. And what I did on the 25th of March was I cast on the bottom band for the back of the sweater. And so far I did do the bottom band. Hang on, now it's still attached to yarn. I had to be careful how I picked this up because I have a lot of yarn going at the moment that's attached to the sweater because it's several different colors. So let me just get this sorted here. So I did the bottom band. That's done. I did the ripples across the back, and now I have just started adding in the little fish and the, I guess this is the mouth portion once I get to it of the large fish, because there's a couple different fish across the back. So that's where I am with this. So I did get quite a bit of that done. You know, a few rows. Every couple of days I do a couple of rows. The banding here, this color work through here, that is Fair Isle knitting. Whereas when you start stitching in these fish, it's Intarsia knitting. So I have a mess of yarn in the back. It's a little neater when it's done. I can show you what it looks like on the panel. So with Fair Isle, you end up carrying your yarn as you go. You have floats on the back. So that's the back of the bands. Right? That's what they look like. But the Intarsia knitting, you carry your yarn up the sides, because this is graph work. So it's done very much the same as cross stitch. So you knit so many cream, then you knit a black and a cream and a black, and then you knit black all the way across so many, and then you knit gray so many, and then, so you don't want to keep carrying the gray all the way out here or the black all the way across. So you use smaller balls of yarn just for that section, and that actually gets carried up through. So it's solid stitching and the color gets carried up through. So that's called Intarsia knitting, I think. Again, I'm a new knitter. This is only the second sweater I've ever attempted. I've never attempted Intarsia knitting. This is the very first time I've ever done that, and I've never done a sweater in panels before that have to get sewn together. The one sweater I did do was my faded cardigan, and that one was all knit as one piece in the round, and then you just picked up the armholes and knit the sleeves right onto the sweater. So this is a new experience for me, but that's what I like about the knitting. I like that every time I pick up a project, it's a project that I'm learning something new as I go. So yeah, so that was very interesting, learning the Intarsia knitting versus the Fair Isle knitting, because I did try the Fair Isle knitting before. I was working on a pair of mittens to give that a go to see how my tension was and all that sort of thing. So that is my Jessica Fletcher Murder, She Wrote sweater. And why is it called that? Because it's not really what it's called. It's actually called, it's a Mary Maxim pattern, a vintage Mary Maxim pattern. And I think it's called the Angler sweater. But Jessica, the character Jessica Fletcher, who's played by the lovely Angela Lansbury in the show Murder, She Wrote from the 80s, she has this sweater and she wears it very famously in like season 1 especially, and a little bit in season 2, I think. There's a couple episodes maybe. Anyway, it's her sweater. So the last thing I worked on is my English paper piecing. A couple years ago when Allie came to visit me, I got her to show me how to English paper piece, and I didn't really get too much into working on it. When I went to visit her, I took this on the plane with me, but again, I had a very small square, let's say, worked for a quilt top. So my intent is to do a quilt top, just a scrappy quilt top. I'm using all kinds of scraps that I've cut up to make my hexies out of. I'm doing a Hexie Quilt. So all of my scraps are cut into little 3x3 squares, which you then wrap around your Hexie and baste it. And then you sew your Hexies together. And this is where this piece currently is. So I have all of this paper pieced now. I've been taking this to work the last 2 rounds, and I've gotten the both pieces that I had done, I joined them together, and I've started adding in other Hexies. Again, this is all hand stitched. None of this is done on machine. So what you do is you put your Hexies together, seam to seam, 2 right sides facing, and then you whip stitch along the edge. Here's my needle because I'm gonna attach these 2 next. And then once you have all of the corners done, that all the sides are attached, you pull out the paper piece. You don't need to leave that in there. So none of this has paper in it. It's just the edges that still have the paper. I'm really pleased with this, and it has actually been a little bit better for me to take to work the last couple of rounds, because I don't have to think and I don't have to follow a pattern, and if we're busy, I mean, I can throw it down and I can work, and then when we're not busy and it's slower, I can pick it up and I can hand sew a few Hexies together, and Bob's your uncle, and that's getting done slowly but surely. So my plan for that, believe it or not, because anybody who knows me knows it's go big or go home, right? My plan for that is to create a queen size quilt top that I can then get my sister's assistance, because my sister does quilt. I don't. This is really my first foray into quilting per se. I've made a couple baby quilts, you know, when my kids were little, but I'm not a quilter. So yeah, I'm going to make a queen size piece of fabric using all these Hexies, and then hopefully I can get my sister to help me put them all together and make an actual queen size bedspread type quilt for my bed. That's everything. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Oh, one last, I have no idea why, but my camera just stopped right in the middle of that. Okay, so about a month ago, I joined the Cross Stitchers Who Read Facebook group that was set up by Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts. And one of the admin people on it as well is Letitia, the Crafty curator. So they have this Facebook group where it's like a book club for cross stitchers, and we're doing it virtually online. We pick a book, we read the book, and then we have a Letitia did a Facebook Live where she actually moderated questions and discussion topics and everything based on the book. So the book that we just finished reading was Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Oh my God, I was just going to say Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables. It's a Margaret Atwood book, Alias Grace. It was a really good read. I thoroughly enjoyed the book. It was well worth it. So I've just picked up the second book, which is called The Lace Reader, and it's a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit, I guess, escapey from all the negativity that's going on at the moment in the world. So I just started reading that. I'm only like 2 chapters in, so I can't really give any, you know, can't say whether I like it or not really at this point. It hasn't really grabbed me, but I think it's going to be a good read. So I've just started that, and I'm looking forward to the discussion on that. I have to say I really enjoyed the last discussion that we had about Alias Grace, and Letitia did a fabulous job moderating the discussion, and we had quite a few people who participated, so it was nice. Anywho, that is it from me. I hope everyone has a fabulous spring, even though you are self-isolating. And I hope you're getting some warmer weather. We still had snow this week. That's all gone again now. The temperatures have come back up. So I'm hoping that we're not going to get any more snow. At least if we don't get any more snow, we can at least get out for a walk or something and get some fresh air. So enjoy your stitching, and I will see you again soon.